Here with reaction, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance.
Yes.
Senator, if I lived in East Palestine, I would rightfully be outraged and very angry tonight. And I'm not trusting any of those politicians that are saying, oh, drink the water, watch me drink the water. They're probably drinking Evian. So, I don't trust. Why no concern from the president? Why? He went to Ukraine. Why can't he go to East Palestine?
Look, Sean, I think this is all about friends versus enemies, and he does not see the people of East Palestine as friends because not enough of them voted for him. And so he's not paying attention to what's going on the ground there. Sean, it's important to note this is not just a lack of leadership from the president. It's a lack of action from his administration. As I sit here speaking, Sean, there are mounds of toxic dirt sitting in East Palestine that Norfolk Southern has dug out of the ground that they cannot get to the licensed facilities that dispose of hazardous chemicals because the Biden administration's EPA is not letting them. I want to repeat that. Because Biden's EPA is not doing its job, East Palestine has toxic chemicals, mounds of toxic chemicals just sitting on the ground. What happens if it rains and this stuff seeps back into the ground? It's a total disaster, and at every level, whether it's Norfolk Southern, the EPA, or somebody else, it feels like the people of East Palestine are being failed by everybody. It's a total disgrace.
Let me ask you how we can independently corroborate and inform the people of East Palestine that things are safe. Because everything that our government pretty much told us about COVID ended up being dead wrong. So I don't have any faith, hope, or trust in the federal government when it comes to my health or anybody in this audience's health or the people of East Palestine. Is there going to be an independent group with no agenda that can tell them definitively the air is safe to breathe, the water is safe to drink?
Well, the first thing, Sean, is if you want to give people confidence that things are safe, you've got to get the toxic chemicals out of there in the first place. Nobody is going to believe that East Palestine is safe when you still haven't cleaned up the original chemical disaster site. 6 weeks later, that hasn't happened. Now, after that happens, you point out a very important point here, which is how do we trust the testing that happens? And I think our office is actually supporting and working with a number of organizations that are doing independent testing on the ground. We're asking other people to get involved so that we can do some long-term testing of the residents. People have been seeking personal health testing, and some of them have been unable to get it. So we've got to just offer everybody everything that they need here to ensure that their health is on the right track. But the very first step is we've got to clean up the community. First and foremost, we've got to start there. Until you do that, nobody is going to have confidence in East Palestine's safety.
Well, the EPA got it wrong, too, on Ground Zero after 9/11. And I remember reporting from Ground Zero at that time. And for weeks, it was nothing but it was like snowing dust and dirt and debris. But the EPA at the time said, oh, no, the air is safe. And so many people, ended up with lung issues. As a result, even to this day, people are still dying as a result of being lied to by the government. And what do the people of East Palestine do in terms of their home values? Excuse me, but as much as I love Ohio, and you do know I love Ohio, I love you, I love Jim Jordan, I love Billy Cunningham, a great talk show host who's out there. But you know what? Is anyone going to want to buy a house in East Palestine? Because I'm not interested.
It's a big issue, Sean. The long-term cleanup and the long-term, redevelopment of East Palestine is going to be something we have to work on. You're exactly right. Home values have already fallen through the floor. You've got a lot of local farmers saying nobody wants to buy my product. A lot of local small businesses where nobody's coming in because people aren't traveling to East Palestine right now. The economic devastation over the long term is something we're going to have to deal with, and it's why we can't leave people behind. There is a terror in East Palestine, Sean. I know you're not going to let up. I know others won't let up. I certainly won't. But there is a terror that they're going to be left behind and ignored. The Biden administration certainly is not giving them any confidence. So we've got to stay on top of them. We've got to ensure, like you said, the independent testing, not just the government testing. And we've got to make sure that the people of East Palestine know there are people and we're not going to forget about them.
Listen, I don't really give a rip if Joe Biden comes. He's a day late and a dollar short, but I do believe that we Americans, before we take care of every other country, that we should be taking care of Americans first. And that means taking care of the people of East Palestine in Ohio, and that means helping them on their home values and ensuring they have clean air and clean water, and it's that simple, before we spend any other money, period. Will that happen?
I hope it will happen, Sean. I'm going to fight every single step of the way to make sure that it does happen. But you're exactly right. If America first means anything, it means taking care of the people of East Palestine before people in other places. It means, of course, locking down our border, and it means ensuring that communities that are devastated through no fault of their own are able to get back on their feet. Right now, our priority needs to be East Palestine as a country. Whatever Joe Biden says, that's exactly what we're going to keep on working on and make sure it happens. The thing we cannot stop doing, Sean, is talking about this community. The failure to clean it up, the failure to provide support, we cannot leave these people behind.
And by the way, I'll add one thing. Pothole Pete needs to go. He needs to be fired. All right, J.D. Vance, thank you for being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.